Um, just a little bit about yellowHEAD, just to give the context behind why we're sitting here. So yellowHEAD is a leading performance marketing company that specializes in paid and organic user acquisition. We work with many large game developers, and because of this, we've been many years in the industry, and we see the industry change a lot. And it's a constant challenge to stay and to adapt to trends and stay ahead of it, but it's even more challenging to be able to predict what's going to happen next. So this is why we're sitting here. So we will try to make predictions on how you should apply user acquisition, what techniques to put in your UI strategy in order to achieve the growth in the future. And with me, I have some really heavyweights of the industry. I'm really happy to have all of the guys here with me. And I'll let you introduce yourself. I think you're going to do it better.
Okay, I'll start, okay? Cool. My name is Chichlowski. I'm head of marketing for Vivid Games. And we're a Polish mobile game company. We were doing paid titles initially. Right now we're doing free-to-play titles. Our leading title is Real Boxing, and the whole franchise Real Boxing, with over 60 million downloads. So I guess it's pretty nice.
Hi, I'm Alex Keselman. I work for AppsFlyer, which is a global leader in mobile analytics and attribution. Basically, I'm doing customer success for companies that are working with us. So, thanks.
Hello, my name is Javier Castro. I'm working at Google for the last 5 years. I'm currently managing a team of people who is working with gaming clients across EMEA. So we are currently working with more than 250 gaming companies.
Nice. So just to get an understanding of the audience, how many of you are in the game development? Can you raise your hand? Okay, and how many of you are doing user acquisition? Okay, so we have some people. So before we jump into the future, I suggest to do like a quick reality check of 2017 summary. You know, looking back at 2017, what do you think was the main game changer if we compare it to 2016? Yeah.
Okay, cool. So when I was thinking about this question, I think that the biggest game changer for 2017 actually happened very, very lately, and it was the store change on the Apple side, and the way the App Store has changed and impacted the whole conversion to installs and generally the discoverability on the apps. So I think we haven't calculated even yet, right, what's the general impact, but we saw it creates a lot of difficulties in order to adapt for that and impact it at the same time the user acquisition and the cost of the users we do, the user acquisition we do on the Apple side. So basically I think this is one of the most challenging aspects that happened during 2017, at least for us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, from my side, we've seen actually like 3 things that actually happened within 2017 mainly. First of all, it's influencers. More and more companies, especially gaming companies, they're trying with this new channel, trying to bring users with influencers, with YouTubers and so on. So I think that's like a pretty new thing, which is now getting more and more impact. Second thing, it's a fight against fraud, because more and more companies start to see that they've received fraudulent activity, their traffic being stolen from organic traffic and blah, blah, blah. And the third thing, it's more attention to ACO, which is App Store optimization. We see that because there's too many content, too many apps out there on the market, and everyone is trying to make their best effort to bring the new audience to show the value of their own apps. So that's 3 main things.
From my side, I think one of the most important changes from this year is how is the UA evolving. So we see how machine learning is becoming more and more trendy. Everyone hear about this word these days, and it's because a couple of years ago everyone was just looking forward to get as many installs as possible, and right now installs are not enough. So we are looking for some more deep events on the funnel. So I think this now, like the combination of the human plus machine learning, is one of the game changers from my side in 2017.
Mm-hmm. So Jan, you talked about competitive CPIs are being as a major challenge in user acquisition. How do you deal with it? And are there any other challenges? And like, what are your current techniques and actions that you are taking to resolve?
Yeah, I think nowadays more than ever, it's getting ROI positive. It's very challenging. Everybody is aware of that CPIs are rising, and because of the competitiveness and big boys buying out portfolio, generally the prices for the users are getting very high, and pretty much for almost probably, I don't know, 80% of the market, they're unavailable anymore. So what we're trying to do is actually, it puts us, it creates a strategy for Vivid Games. What we're trying to do, and I'm pretty much sure it's not applicable for everyone, but at least that's what we're doing, is we're trying to position our games as a kind of a, I don't know, niche games, something like that. So for instance, with Real Boxing, it's not mass market games, it's a sport games, it's a boxing game. So it is for kind of specific user. And therefore it allows us to buy traffic more target oriented, and therefore to buy it cheaper. And at the same time, obviously, and I know we will talk about it later, it's IP related. So whenever there's a possibility to bring IP to the table and to the game, we do it just instantly, because like very, you can see it with your naked eye, it just lowers the CPIs.
How is it different from the attribution part?
Well, what we've seen, like especially for largest gaming development companies, yes, definitely CPIs are growing, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to predict future ROI. There's already a few models how they do that, like they see on ARPU, they see on different things, and I guess that's like a new trend for companies to understand what's going on with their traffic, with their users, just to see what's going to happen within like 90, 180 days and more.
Yeah. So Javi, since you mentioned artificial intelligence and machine learning of the technology, and at I/O this year, Google announced, 2017 as a year of artificial intelligence. It's not just a buzzword anymore. It's here, and EdTech is no longer about just, automation of routine tasks and rule-based actions. Right? It's also, as Alex has mentioned, a lot has to do with being able to predict the performance. We at yellowHEAD, like recently, we just announced a predictive technology, and we've seen really impressive results for our clients. So this is something that is really, how do you think the machine learning and AI as a general, gonna affect the future of EdTech? And are we really facing a future without campaign managers?
I think it's a bit scary for some of the marketeers, because they think like their job is gonna be gone after machine learning, but I think it's not. It's a combination of the KPIs or all the information that the marketer has to provide to the campaigns in order to make them more successful. So we announced 1.5 years ago universal ad campaigns. So we have Google Search, Google Display, YouTube campaigns. All of those campaigns have been using machine learning for a long time ago, so machine learning, it shouldn't be like a new term, even though it's quite trendy lately. But we decided to go into the UAC campaign, which is try to simplify and to put all those campaigns into one simple one. And the main reason for that is because now we are able to see many more signals and patterns coming from the search side, from display, from YouTube, from Google Play. So we will be able to provide a better insights and to get better performance. From the negative side, there are many complaints regarding, okay, this is becoming a black box because we don't know what's happening. We don't see which keywords are you bidding for. We don't see which placements are you showing my ads. But as soon as you give me good results, I don't care. The problem is going to happen once the results are not great. How are we going to be able to optimize? So that's also on our roadmap in order to provide you more access to the machine learning, right? So universal app campaigns right now are very limited, so you can't do much apart from adding creatives or a couple of line of text. But the idea is to provide you with insights and access in order to tell the universal app campaigns what you want to do. Even if you want to add some IDFAs, email address, so that's part of the roadmap. We hope we can give you that for 2018.
Okay, well that's interesting because there are a lot of talks in the industry going on right now about UAC. It's coming, like all the mobile app installs are gonna shift to UAC by mid-November, and obviously there are a lot of questions I hear from developers saying, okay, so I have my queuing campaign running, so what's gonna happen to my campaign? You know, people are really like, because campaign managers don't really have that much power anymore, at least the way it is perceived right now, into interfering, you know, with optimization efforts. So maybe you can say something, you know, from Google's side to make it more clear and to give an understanding of what actually is going to happen. So you have a campaign live right now, so what's going to happen after the transition?
Robots will take over the world.
Yeah.
Skynet.
So it was a tough decision for Google. So we launched Universal App Campaigns only 1.5 years ago. So the reason for decide to shut down the rest of Swag One campaigns is because we have seen the success of the Universal App Campaign. So I would say like, I don't know, 80% of our campaigns right now are Universal App Campaigns. So even the gaming clients, which is the savviest industry, they are convinced of the success, but of course in some cases they are concerned that they are not going to have access to it, right? So for example, if someone wants to run only search campaigns, they will complain because they don't want to see their ads showing on YouTube. But that's going to change, right? Because if search is performing better than YouTube, the machine will automatically detect that, so it shouldn't show ads on YouTube. I understand the complaints regarding the black box, and we have added the creative asset report like 1 month ago, and we are hearing all this feedback in order to provide to give you as much access as possible. And right now we have 3 types of universal app campaigns, depending on what you want to optimize towards. If you want to optimize for installs, install advanced, which is some events, and we have also universal app campaigns optimizing towards ROAS, so for pure ROI or ROAS dependent marketeers. So we are just starting with this, and things are not going to change much because all the inventory that was available before in search, display, and YouTube is going to be available on universal app campaigns, so the inventory is going to be the same. The only thing is the way we're going to display and show the numbers. So performance should only get better because we will get access to more signals and patterns.
Okay, thanks. Alex, anything you can see from your side, or have you seen UAC?
Yeah, actually, I think that's a great change that Google actually brought up because, okay, if you take the campaign management, campaign optimization, it's pretty simple math. You take a matrix of the campaigns you have, you see what's going on with the numbers, you optimize the campaigns, and you see like increase or decrease in the beats. Well, actually, machine can do that better and faster and more effective. I think campaign managers and marketing managers, they have to do a bit different work. They have to work more with the product, with the teams within their company, like to make the product better and the way how they can show their product.
So more strategic.
More strategic way, yeah, exactly. You don't need to do work that machine can do better than you. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great way for future to see how it's going to go.
Makes sense, thanks. Jan, anything you can add?
Yeah, I like those changes. I mean, in our case, we have just one guy who really controls the whole UA in a company, and he's partially right now involved in other initiatives. So, and since we planned to spend even more because there are more games in our pipeline that we'd like to publish soon, so this actually creates opportunity for us to, you know, to be cost effective and not hire more people. I don't know yet, but we haven't tried that much, so this is still something we need to kind of research and check, but we're quite excited, I would say.
Nice. Well, I think everyone is excited, and the time will show, but I mean, at this point, we really trust Google to, you know what you're doing, guys, so we put the trust in that. So we touched a little bit about creatives and ad formats. So let's talk about the future of it. While, you know, the reach is plentiful, inventory is everywhere, but attention is really scarce. So you have, like, it's a real challenge in UA to create that engaging ad creative, understand what's working for specific game genre, on specific platform, and video, I mean, it has been big for a couple of years right now. It's still, you know, preserves its position as being one of the most effective ad format. I think in yellowHEAD, the creative team, probably over like 90% of all the creatives that they're creating, it's video. So what do you think is the future of creatives? Right now we're seeing playable ads as a new format. We're working with that too. So what do you think are the new ad formats that might appear in a year or two? And yeah, like in general, will we be able to like optimize actually the creative and being able, you know, to predict the performance of creative and to see how it performs with every audience and micro-segmentation?
I already mentioned at first that I see the future and that the new trend is about influencers, about the bloggers. I think that would be sort of like a merge with the video and YouTubers, that they'll be making like a self-made content. Like it will be a video that they're making themselves, and it's sort of a more targeted for their own audiences, that it's being targeted for the audiences of this specific YouTuber.
So on my side, I think there's two things to mention, at least from our perspective. So one is, as you mentioned, the playable ads, and I think rich media, as they call it, I don't know, different probably namings, but it is something really trendy right now, and we haven't tried it yet, but our partner has tried that, and he's got really nice results. So I think I mean, by the even way you look at it, right? It's nice, it's playing an ad, so the level of immersion is much better than just watching something. So you're actually more interacting with the creative. So I would imagine the clickability, it's much better. That's on one hand. On the second hand, that's actually funny, because when I was thinking about this question, I've checked our campaigns and what we're doing, and to be honest, we try new creatives, but as you said, the good old video is still working, so I'm pretty much sure 80–90% of our budget goes there anyway. And I mean, we sometimes try new creatives, but we kind of often either turn them down because they're too expensive, or just not ROI positive that much as good old videos. I'm pretty much sure video is gonna stay for a long time, and there's gonna be a lot of spending in it as well. Probably we'll try new methods, but I guess for most of the players who spend a lot, it's going to be a supportive thing.
Yeah, and I think it's not also about just video, but there are a lot of things to play with video. We have 360 videos, we have all the different resolutions, you know, horizontal, vertical. How do you see it, Javi, from Google's perspective?
Just to give you an idea, the two main requests that we got for Universal App campaigns are creative asset report. They want to see how each creative is performing. And the second one is playables. Right now, it's not possible to upload playables to Universal App campaigns. That's been the number one request from most of our game developers. So I think there is a long way to go yet with creatives. Most of the game companies are doing A/B tests all the time, and the funny thing is like the results that they find with Facebook most of the times don't match with the results that they find running Google campaigns or other ad networks campaigns. So it's very difficult to identify a pattern. Even for clients that I've been working for 3–4 years, they don't really know if it's better for them a short video, 5 seconds video, or a 20–25 seconds video. It depends a lot on the market, it depends a lot on the game, so it's very difficult to identify, or I haven't seen yet like 100% good tool where you can really trust what is the performance and the best creative. So I think this is going to be also one of the main topics in 2018.
Okay, great. Let's talk about organic user acquisition, because you know, paid and organic, they really go together. And at yellowHEAD, we build, you know, the strategy in the way that we're working with our clients. We are saying, you know, there are two pillars of user acquisition. So it's paid and organic, and you really need to be, like, those two fields really need to work together and cooperate in order to be able to have this consistency throughout the funnel, from, you know, the first impression of the ad, of the click, and then you go to the app store, you see. So it has to be consistent, you know, graphic language, consistent narrative, and there's also a lot to do in ASO. You know, you have to do ranking, you have to do page optimization, in order not to lose those new users, you know, here in the middle of the funnel, and actually like take them into the game and work on a great onboarding followed on what experience they already had. So how do you factor organic user acquisition into your long-term UI strategy, and how do you think it will change the ASO in particular in the near future?
Yeah, I got a good case here. So I think like a year ago, for all that time, and it has changed a year ago, we followed up a strategy where we soft launching a title. We didn't pay that much attention to ASO. So we just, checked the basic creatives button, nothing like keywords or whatever. They were just literally made by some one guy in 15 minutes. And we just were launching the game, and once it proved to be okay in terms of KPIs, then we invested in ASO and stuff like that. So at some point there was one game we launched called Highway Getaway, and we launched it initially. It had really nice KPIs, but the number of organic downloads was like super low, and we just applied with you guys. We applied the ASO to that, and we tripled the number of downloads. And we saw that actually we missed that very important opportunity at the very beginning life cycle of the application. So we changed our strategy and our thinking, and right now we're doing ASO from the very beginning. So I would say in our cases, as we measured that, organic download, it's from the search even, it's 60% of our downloads. So I think that ASO and taking care about the store is essential, and it's crucial. I think it's forgotten by a lot of people at many moments.
Alex?
Well, I don't have anything to add here because, like, basically AppsFlyer is about non-organic traffic. So
Yeah, but sometimes it's really like unless you're running UA activity, if you're doing just ASO, it's really hard to measure.
Of course. Like, it's definitely very important. Like, without ASO, without optimization of your page, without any content, like a real valuable content for the user, you won't have much good of results. Landing page is something, like, for me personally, it's something that shows what's going on with this app. If it's actually worth of my time to download it, it actually works for non-organic installations. So.
Thanks. Javi?
Yeah, I think it's also one of the main questions that we always get. Like, okay, if I get like 1,000 installs from Google, how many organic installs are gonna get, right? So that's, we don't know that. It depends on the market as well. So if you are running a campaign in US, which is a huge market, 1,000 installs are not gonna give you much regarding organic, right? But if you're running a campaign in Latvia, which is a small country, and you get 10,000 installs, maybe the organic uplift is gonna be much faster and important, right? I think also depends on the stage where you are in the marketing strategy. If you are just doing the global launch, the organic is going to be important. I've seen many companies trying to do these burst campaigns. I don't know if you tried this before, but it's try to spend as much as possible within 24 to 48 hours in order to get thousands of installs and trying to get organic uplift with that. Again, it's becoming more and more expensive because there are more players bidding and doing user acquisition compared to 2 years ago. So it's extremely expensive unless you want to focus on non-tier 1 countries or really specific markets.
Is that still working?
I immediately thought of this
the same question.
The algorithm on the Google is like pretty smart right now. Does the burst still works on Google?
I think we don't see the same curve as before, and it depends on the game developer, right? We are talking about Machine Zone, Supercell, these guys with huge budgets. Yeah. They really can influence our organic top growth.
How important is so we didn't have this question, but I'm just raising it. Like, how important is localization? For those, if the shift is changing, and if you are developing a game, you're indie developer or a small startup, you understand that penetrating tier 1 from the very beginning is going to be a challenge. You need to have large budget in order to do that. So is this something, localization, that you have to keep in mind from the very beginning, and culturalization, because it affects so many things within the game. So how should it be implemented within the game, the product itself, in order then to affect the user acquisition?
So once we moved to the launch, we used 23 languages on the store, and we usually localized game into 9 languages. But we even measured that at some point, because initially when we were launching, we were just making a smaller amount of language. But we see, depending on the markets, uptake and organic downloads. When we localize the store itself, it's like 10 to 20% uptake on the download side. If you localize the game as well, you got even more, like to 30%. And what's even most important is that whenever you're localizing your game, and it's gonna be localized or preferably culturalized, and you have localized store as well, it gives you a great benefits when talking with the store guys. Because yeah, obviously the local editorial teams value that really much.
Thanks.
Yeah, when I'm talking with my biggest clients, especially in gaming development, and they were telling me stories about the Asian market, how they tried to go into Asian market, and they told me, dude, like you cannot really go on the Asian market with the same product. It has to be absolutely different game because they have their own cultural and mental differences. So you'd have to not only localize, you have to actually culturalize it for this specific people because otherwise it just won't work.
I kind of agree. Like, especially for the Asian market, localization is key, and most of the gaming clients are losing a huge opportunity on Asia, which is one of the biggest. I mean, Japan is the second biggest gaming market, and they don't know how to engage with users there. So I think localization is one of the challenges also for 2020.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I think we're done with questions, and I think it's a great opportunity for the audience and for people who hear. You know, we have this almost 360 view on the industry. So we have a game development, we have an attribution company, and media platform, a huge, you know. So if there are any questions, please feel free to ask.
I have common question, maybe somebody already have heard it. How do you fight with piracy? And have you thought about monetization of pirated installs? And it's on mobile games. They're always pirate and stealing.
Yeah, that's a very good question. For our top games, like for real boxing franchise, I think 30% of our traffic is piracy. And to be honest, we can't find a way to deal with it. So we just accept that. I mean, it goes mostly through China, and well, there's literally nothing you can do about it unless you have, I don't know, some office there, some like really big activity, and maybe probably they have some tools to that. I don't even know. But what's even most important is the problem is they hack your app, they unlock the in-app purchases, but the problem is they do not hack the analytical system. So you get a mess in your data. And what's actually most important for us, it's not even the scale of the piracy, but how to rule out the data. Because you imagine they just buy a lot, but obviously they do not buy it. They just click the in-apps and they get it for free. But in your analytical team, it looks as if you've got the purchases. So there are, you know, nice tricks we managed to do in order to rule out those data. There is a special segment called pirates, and we do not calculate them. That's it.
You should start working with AppsFlyer. Because we actually provide like Protect 360 tool that blocks those installations that come from out of store or from the sources you don't want to be like validated, that you don't see as validated. And you can actually see where it's coming from and what those devices are and so on, so on, so on. So I think that's just something you need to maybe take out from your own job and sort of create validation rules for provider you're working with, and then it will be just cut it out automatically.
With UAC, you mentioned that you have partners that Universal App Campaign. So for some companies it does work really well, but what I'm wondering, and then what I found working with UAC, is that the niche audiences and the games that address those audiences, they're struggling with UAC because of limited data, right? Google works with the big data and great amount of data, but when you're going for, take poker for example, right? It's just 15% of the market. So how do you what do you have for the developers who are just going for very competitive niche markets?
So when you run a universal app campaigns, the inventory that you're targeting is much broader than for search, display, or YouTube, because you are targeting everything. So it shouldn't be the case. What happens maybe is that it takes some time for the algorithm to understand where are the high quality users. So the main concept that we see is like it can take like up to 100 installs, 150 installs to identify some patterns and signals to see where is the installs or the conversions coming from. So that's the main concept that we see. Like, I understand that some developers don't want to get traffic from YouTube because they see branding on search performing better. But it doesn't mean that there is not a specific pattern of signals or users who are on YouTube who are going to have good performance. So that's why I think it's good to give it a try, let the algorithm just identify and work on all the inventory that we have, and it will be possible to target some of the search users, maybe on a different platform like Google Play or Gmail or YouTube. So I think overall it's a good experience, even though the main concern I see is like it takes some time to ramp up, to collect some data and to understand in which platform are the best users.
I have a question actually. So it's kind of correlated to the question about the audiences and also with the topic, looking into the future. Like there's been so many talks about, targeting and showing ads to millennials and other generations. By 2020, we'll have their younger audience who is not on, for instance, on Google and Facebook. They're on Snapchat and other apps. So do you think we'll see new, more effective channels and like UA techniques, how to actually, get that attention? Influencers is something that I think is speaking closely to that change between the generations. But are there any other techniques, to actually address these younger generations or specific niche, maybe?
Yeah, I think younger generations are tough, are difficult because they are unpredictable, right? So they might be on Facebook 10 years ago, they moved to Snapchat, then they moved to Instagram. So I think Facebook is really paying attention to those younger generations. Actually, they just acquired TVH, like a younger social network, a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, they're difficult to predict because they're difficult to track because you don't know where they're gonna be in 5 years. So you really need to pay attention to how are they moving or where are they going to. But that's a challenge because I think they're very different to the rest of the audiences, which are much more stable and they don't really change much. But with the younger generations, you will never know what's going to happen in 4 or 5 years' time. So it's a real challenge.
Yeah, and it's not only about platform, it's also about creatives itself, because right now it has to be super fast paced, 1-2 seconds you have to catch attention and then somehow engage it to the app and so on. So it's moving more towards to the personal engagement to this user, to the specific kid or whatever. Mm-hmm. So platform, it will change today, tomorrow, it doesn't matter. It's just the way how do you talk with this audience. Change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you already mentioned that, and we talked about it briefly before as well, but I think the influencers will play a big role here, and it's really hard for me to talk about the results because we're still in a testing phase for that, but we expect to get it bigger and bigger, and the very important thing about the influencers is that besides getting a performance and getting the traffic you're paying for, you as well get something I think it's like driving the brand image. Yeah. So whenever the game it's not very generic, so it's not super either casual and a copy of other games. So you have really something unique to build the brand around that. I think it suits influencers very nicely, because besides just the number of downloads is as well creating some kind of mood around the product, which probably will be very nice, appealing for your target audience.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hello. So tell me please how to survive on the market where the CPI is between 5 and 10, depends on platform, for indie developer or small company that have some great core mechanic, but they can't build meta game that raise LTV for higher than CPI. Thank you.
Sure. To be honest, we couldn't afford $5 user. No way. We would be losing money. So we're buying our traffic for 50 cents. But that's what I told you. It's about that we have a boxing game, so we can actually target it to very specific audience, and we have a Rocky IP in it as well. So it lowers the price of the traffic. but we couldn't afford spending $5. So in your case, what I would do, I would just either test, and check whenever if maybe you do something wrong with targeting or something like that. So I would check more specifically different cases, and if for example in a month period you wouldn't see any results in that, either you change something drastically about the game, so it would look very, very differently and would be about something else, or you have to go yourself, or you will have to work more on the organic side of the traffic, so work better in the store, or work better with the store. So just chase the editorial guys, chase those people, ask them to feature you, etc., and that's your case. That's what I would suggest.
Yeah, it's like, what's the difference between like small companies and huge companies? When you're a small company, you can do guerrilla wars. So you can actually test the craziest ideas, and it's not going for your reputation of you're a huge company. Because you're an indie developer, you can try whatever you want. You can try like craziest thing you can possibly imagine, and not thinking about the CPI itself only.
Yes, I would say probably the same. Like, I wouldn't focus on cost per install unless it's a soft launch or global launch. I would probably focus on, is your game monetizing with ads, or is your game monetizing with in-app purchases? If it's monetizing with ads, maybe you should worry about retention. So how do you measure retention? Maybe you need to add any event in the funnel after the install, and then see, okay, how much can I afford for this user who is playing my game during the first 2 days, right? Or maybe you need to think about how much can I afford for a purchase instead of for an install. So I think installs are not that important anymore, because just think about, like, most of the installs are becoming uninstalls in 20-15 days. So you really need to think about quality users. So you don't care if you get 100 installs if after 1 month you have only 2 installs, right? So I would really focus on what's happening after that install. Does the user complete the tutorial? How many users after the install complete the tutorial? 80%, 70%? So then you have to remove those other 30% of installs. So let's try to work on the funnel and the lifetime value model that I always say, and try to identify which events or where can you really measure the high quality of the user.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone, and thank you guys for joining us today.
And thank you very Marina for such insightful panel. Let's put it together for them, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.